Hello and welcome to Mordheim, City of the Damned. This is a PvP demo from the current beta, and my name is Tommy Jackson, and I'll be taking you through a quick match I had online on the Quayside map. This is the mission where one side is attacking and the other side is defending. In this case, my Skaven are attacking. These are supposed to represent barges we're coming in on, and the filthy merchants will be coming out of the sewers to defend. So I start things off with the right side. This is one of my three verminkin. They're equipped basically for speed. And he's going to move up on the right, and right where those stairs are was where the enemies are going to be fighting us. We move to the next guy on the left, and there's no easy ramp up, so this guy's really forced to climb. I've built these guys for climbing. He's got no armor on, but it's still not good enough. He fails the first attempt and takes a little bit of a hit. That's going to be enough to end his turn, unfortunately, so we'll move on to the third and final verminkin, who is also on this side. He's going to find the next climb point, which is up here, and he's going to get up it. On the other side of this roadway is another sewer entrance where the enemies are coming. So as you can see, it's a very, very tight map. His movement's going to be done, and so the third and final verminkin is going to be complete. The next guy I've got, and you see I'm moving in succession here because I've really built my team for initiative, is the Grey Seer. He is the caster. He's also got no armor on, and he's built for climbing as well too. In fact, he's got one of the better chances at 74%. It does pay off this time, and he gets to the top and finishes off the end of his movement, finding a nice place of cover. Because just up ahead, down this path, is going to be the other sewer entrance where the guys on the left are coming out of. So I don't want to take any quick hits if he decides to rush. Now on to the hero, who's probably one of the most important characters here, simply because he's the guy that's got to keep the rat over from going stupid. So that's why I end my movement here, because I need to burn half of it to cast that on the guy, and that leaves him a little bit farther behind. But I do remember enough to move him out of the way on the ramp so he doesn't block off the guys following. Over here on the left, we've got the toughest of all the Skaven heroes, or perhaps I should say the strongest of all the non-Rat Ogre heroes. He is the Black Skaven, and he's going to be our best in close combat. Because of this, I decided I don't want to flank the long way around the left side. I try to make him climb, and despite the 64% chance, he falls. So, nothing else for it. We got to get him up and get him stuck in. He is going to be guarding the Grey Seer, really. So we are successful on the second attempt, and he gets to the top, and like the Grey Seer, he decides to find a spot to hide. We don't want to get rushed, and, play it a little cautious as the filthy rats. That's what we do. Back over on the right, we've got another Skaven hero. This is the Night Runner hero. He's pretty quick. He's a little faster than normal with 5 pips of blue movement, and he's going to use that to cover the rear here, because those stairs you see, which are now on the right of the screen, that's where the tunnel on this side comes out of. And I want them, if we're going to fight, on the very close side, because I do not have range. Pistols are short-ranged. If the fight is somewhere farther in on this side, he'll be able to shoot up, while my guys on this roadway will not be able to shoot down. I want to be able to shoot into the fight and concentrate fire, while staying out of his line of sight. That's just, this way you got to fight the mercenaries, because they have the superior range weapons. So the Rat Ogre, not wanting to get stuck in and exposed, takes the cautious way and decides to flank on the right. The first of the 2 Storm Vermin. These are the guys in heavy armor. They're not going to risk climbing unless I have to. He's going to take the long way around on the left, while his buddy on the right doesn't have to do that. He can follow the rest of the party. And he's going to take his sweet time here, but what you're going to see is eventually he's going to set up another ambush, and him and the Gutter Runner are going to try and cover the rear side on this so the boys here can flank. Any day now, I'll get off my ass and park it. Alright, we go to turn 2, and we take a little quick look at the map. You can see the question marks where the enemy are. You can see the spots where the enemy will be coming out of. So, we've got them penned in. Got to keep them hopefully trapped. On the right, we're going to try and flank before they catch on to us. At least so goes the plan. And we're going to do that. We're going to scout with the first verminkin. He's going to take the cautious way. He's not going to try climbing and failing again. But he doesn't quite have enough movement to get across the street. So rather than be exposed, I continue to be cautious here, and I park him back in that building. The next guy is going to be the other 2 verminkin, I should say, on this side of the map. And they're going to start to shoot down. We know the enemy's down there. This side is a much closer gap than the right side, so we have less range issues. But we still have some, and as you see, I trigger an overwatch before I can even get a shot off. And because of that, my movement's basically done. It's committed. So he's forced to go into overwatch here and hope to get a shot off at some point. So the third dude, the first guy who failed to climb, is got to climb now, because running around the flank is just going to be way too far. We've already begun to engage. He's more successful on his second attempt, and although that does leave him a bit out of range, to start shooting this turn. So he's going to move up and be in position to support fire. So the idea is these two vermin can blast down while the hero is trying to block off the enemies from leaving. Force him to climb up and force him to take a few falls. Meanwhile, the Grey Steer finally decides to move into position. He does screw up. You see that thing on the wall? I didn't. That's a booby trap. That infects my guy with the debuff that you see, so I'll be taking damage from here on out. I don't want to overcommit my Grey Steer, so I stop here, switch to my Pistolas, and go into Overwatch. So if he tries to get out, I'll be blasting him away. So hopefully that encourages him to stay down at the bottom, where he'll be shooting up into cover, and I'll be shooting down with a bonus. To keep that up, the Black Skaven does the same thing. He switches to his pistols and goes into Overwatch. So anyone coming up here is going to get pasted, especially if they want to engage in melee. Back on the right, we go back to the leader. He's going to take a quick look on the left, and yeah, that tunnel is much, much farther. My pistols can't reach from here. So I could either charge out and fight him in the middle, or continue doing what I'm doing and flanking. And so I continue the conservative route and take the flank. Just like his Vermin Kid Scout, though, he ain't going to be able to reach across the street. So I decide to play very cautiously here, again, and hide him in the building. Moving on to the Night Runner. Night Runner now has got his 5 points of movement, and he's going to use every bit of it to actually get across the street this time. Here we've got a convenient little building to hide into, so just in case he rushes out, I go into ambush state. Now the big boy. Not really sure what to do with him here since I don't want to commit, so I take him all the way around the back. Speed things up here because I spent way too much time on that turn, but the idea is to get him close without engaging. Now here we see his ogre. And what's going on here is the enemy sees what's going, and instead of fighting me, decides to flank. So that what we saw there was him withdrawing his forces. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, this guy appears from out of the sewer and gets a shot off. So we move to the Storm Vermin all the way on the left, and he's still trying to get involved. He's all the way in the back, but at least he didn't have to climb. His buddy over here continues with the flanking move, at least supporting the flanking move. He's going to sit here and guard it in case they try to bum rush, which at this point is a huge mistake. They're withdrawing. I should be pressuring, and that's probably the big mistake of the game for me. At least we'll call it the first one. While on the other side, he continues to mass shooters down there, and he is just pouring guys out of that sewer. We wait a little bit as he continues to think what he wants to do. And he gets another shot off. Because he took so long, he gets a big fat miss. That'll teach him to take a long turn. This time, the guy finally gets a shot off. His Overwatch is triggered by yet another guy coming out of the tunnel on the left. It's yet another shooter who successfully gets a crossbar shot up. So, we got a little good fight brewing here on the left. And this is going to end the turn. This is the very last guy to go. So, on to round 3. His mage is out of sight. And so, here's a quick look at the map. Alright, finally we get to go, and the first of the vermin can go. This is the guy that just overwatched, so he knows he's pretty much in range. I'm going to give it a quick reload. Let me see a nice 80% chance to hit. I got a 10% because I'm on high ground. He's going to be 10 to 20 down because he's got covering away. So this guy is loving life. He's blasting away. His buddy, screw up. Little minor mistake here. I should have probably stayed up and kept shooting. However, I don't want him getting out of the trap just yet. So I decided to commit one of the expendable verminkin. They are expendable, but he should have been joining the other guy and concentrating fire. So instead, you see what really goes wrong on this flank. And although I'm tying that guy up, he's kind of trapped between the two dudes. I'm spreading my damage. Anyway, back on the right, you see me maneuvering continue guys in position. Not committing just yet. I'm continuing the flank. Back to this guy. He triggers another trap, seeing the little picture in there. And finally, the Grey Seer commits. He's got a decent little shot. He doesn't get the high ground bonus, but he blows the shot anyway. Still, it's a pretty good place, so I'm going to reload and then just get a little bit out of line of sight. Keep him shooting at my support characters. Next guy to go is my other hero, and I decide that my Storm Vermin is going to be out of range. I don't want these guys getting out, so I move to block him and trap him, and I commit this guy to doing it. As you're going to see later as a spoiler alert, the Storm Vermin is in range and could have done this. So this guy should have stayed out with his superior ballistic skill and poured fire, focused fire, and just started working these guys down. Instead, he engages the marksman and starts to beat the crap out of him, because he should. You know, he's pretty badass. Back on this side, we've got our boss. Boss runs forward, wants to get a little closer, manages to draw some Overwatch fire. Not wanting to commit just yet and getting gang jumped, I hide him in this little alley here, and we're right around the corner now from the bad guys. Or so we think. Continuing with the guys on the right, since we already triggered the Overwatch, this guy's going to move in and support the boss man. As you can see, we're getting just ready to spring the trap on this flank. Question is has the enemy withdrawn too much and escaped the trap, or are we going to get it off in time, or is he going to countercharge into the ambush? Still don't commit the big boy. Looking at a bad guy right there. Think I'm pretty close. I've got the movement. I really don't have to worry about him escaping too much. So I go into ambush here. His 6 movement should be able to catch him. Alright, this is the guy in the rear guard. And they've already withdrawn at this point. I'm guarding something that's not even at risk. But I leave him here. Meanwhile, on the other side, the enemy's going to start to get the go. Though I do have 1 storm vermin left on this side. Anyway, we sit here and we wait for the enemy marksman to finally figure out what he wants to do. He can't withdraw. He's penned in. I've got these guys finger trapped, which is great. All it comes down to now is properly focusing handgun fire into these guys one at a time. Got 3 guys with handguns up top. These guys are penned in. You know, things should be looking up, hopefully, right? We shall see. Speaking of storm vermin, that's when I realized this guy could have actually closed the trap. And that way the hero, although he is kicking some butt in close combat, could be sitting there doing damage. And this guy's got heavy armor on. He's better set up for soaking damage. So we see him hop down there, and he manages to pull it off. And yep, here comes more guys with bows. Marksman pops out, pops off a shot. So we got a little gunfight here. Oh, the Youngblood. This is one of the enemy heroes. And he has got a big axe. Skinny little dude. Really big axe. And he opens up with a whopping 47 damage hit on my Verminkin. Granted, my guy's got no armor on, but it's pretty painful. I can't take 2 of those. That's about it. That's all it takes to kill a Verminkin. In the meantime, the guy tail end Charlie bringing up the last move is this henchman, and he's going to engage. Enemy gets smart here, and he focuses his damage on this Verminkin. It's one of the weaker characters I've got, of course, but still, a kill is a kill. And he starts to really pound on this guy, too. Should have been up top, shooting down, buddy. Alright, move on to round 4. And I don't see the enemy mage, so we go right to my first Verminkin. This guy's trapped. He's getting beat up pretty bad, as you can see. So much, though, I start to not know what the hell to do here. And I take a little time trying to figure out what to do, who to attack, who to focus on. And I decide this guy is easier to kill, right? Big mistake. I should have gone for the guy without the shield, because the guy without the shield's easier to hit. Youngblood does a lot more damage. So he whiffs and goes in the dodge stance. In the meantime, the other Verminkin, this one on the right flank, finally realizes I've been duped. The enemy has escaped. The guy that's right here is no longer here. They booked. So, nothing else for it. I know that guy's covering me with the bow, so let's trigger it on this unimportant Verminkin. And hey, he actually misses. So the enemy has escaped the trap. I probably took a little bit too long to set it up, and he's going to try and focus all of his damage on this flank. Anyway, guy up top continues his tremendous job of firing in support. And he continues focusing on the guy he's been shooting, but this time he actually misses. So for the first time in 3 times, he actually misses. Can't have it all. Alright, going to my Grace here. He spends a little bit of time trying to line up a good shot. And as always happens when you take way too long for your turn, you even see me doing this in 4 times speed. By the time you finally do get your shot off, it's a big miss. So, both fire support shots from the back missed this turn. Should have been focusing fire, should have been getting some hits, and should have been able to kill one of these guys. My failure to take out a guy on this flank, even though I've spread damage all over the place, is really going to hurt me, as you see here, coming up. But this guy's already committed to the fight, This is the Black Skaven, and he shows why he's the best. And he beats that crap out of this marksman. Back to my leader. Nothing else for it. Time to get stuck in. This guy bills himself as an assassin, so time to play the assassin. Now, one thing you're going to notice here is this attack is apparently bugged. I noticed this as soon as I made that first attack. It should be 2 red. That's how it used to be before they changed things around in the recent patch. Apparently they didn't get around to it, so I actually end up getting 4 attacks when I should only get 2. Little sneaky trick for you filthy rats out there. And here's the other thing where I abuse game mechanics very nicely. That archer can't get a free attack because he doesn't have a melee weapon. So there's nothing preventing me from fleeing. Fleeing doesn't take any blue points. So I get all the way away, and I get the last blue point and get into cover. Pretty good job for an assassin, I must say. Moving to the other hero on that flank. And this guy is going to run up with his pistolas and do what he does best, which is do range damage. And that guy is hurting now after those 2 consecutive attacks. And he gets the hot too, so no chance of shooting at me, or very, very low chance of getting a hit. You're going to have to fight me if you want, which, as you can see, he doesn't. Anyway, the enemy does some stuff that we can't see, and we're back to the big guy. You can see there I screwed up and forgot to renew the stupid debuff. Luckily, he doesn't go stupid, and he's able to charge up, and it's kind of overkill here. I probably should have chased the next guy down. But I get a kill. Take out that guy finally with the 3 hits. Or I should say the 3 different guys. And realizing that there's no point, I gotta commit to the fight. And this guy comes up, and this is, I think it's his champion. Commits him to the fight, finally. And my rat ogre gets a big miss. 84% chance, don't matter. So, he gets his counterattack, but he misses back in return, which is pretty fortunate. So, I get my 3rd and final attack with my big guy. Do a decent bit of damage. Fortunately, I do not have enough to go into a defensive stance, which would be really nice against that big, clumsy axe. In the meantime, he now engages his big guy. And this is on the left. I did not think this guy was going to be this close. This is why I failed in my ambush on the right. He manages to get all the way to my grace here. And takes his time, but I guess the thrill of the kill. He puts on Devil Dare Mastery, which increases damage by 75%, while increasing incoming damage by a little bit, which doesn't matter because, as you see, I got no stance up, I've got no counterattacks. He clobbers me in 2 hits. And then takes baby steps over here and blocks off the climb point out. So, not good on the left flank. Continuing with the left flank, we see the marksman over here that is engaged with the Black Skaven. Again, he ain't got nowhere to go. So eventually he does get his swing in and gets through the parry. And to counter that, he goes into his own parry stance. Now we go to the first Storm Vermin. This is the guy that hopped down last turn. Right above him and behind is that ogre. So, got to get a kill here. And I should have focused damage. I can't get in the young blood, but I still should have taken the shot on that henchman warrior. Instead, I go to tie this guy up. It's not a bad plan, but with an ogre running around one-shotting people, I should be focusing damage. Normally, this is the good idea, but not in this situation. It does get a really big hit off, a nice 41 damage on the marksman. Go halberds. This guy is left behind. And I spent a little bit of time here trying to get as close as possible, but yep, I took too long on the right, and he's still not even in combat yet. And that'll end the Skaven for the turn, and the enemy will finish off the turn here. This marksman on the right decides discretion's a better part of valor and abandons the, I'm sorry, not marksman, henchman. Henchman warrior. He abandons the hero. The remainder of his guys are here on the left, it looks like. We've got a marksman that's engaged, the guy I just tied up with my Storm Vermin. Nowhere to run, can't shoot. And gets 12 damage off with his axe. Oh, it's not all over on the right, as we now go to the champion who's engaged with my big guy. And he crits him with that big axe. Ugh, no dodge stance, that's the penalty I pay. And he takes a little bit of time before finally figuring out what he wants to do here. And he decides to continue the retreat. All of his buddies have left him. So he spends 2 blue and then spends the other 2. And this is actually a critical mistake on his part because just like I didn't get up a defensive stance, he didn't either. He used all of his blue to move. And that guy's stance is completely ignored. Oh, as the young blood gets another big, big, powerful hit and finally kills the vermin he's been fighting. He pauses there for a minute to admire the kill. And then he goes to Chinese finger tramp the storm vermins. Now my guy ain't getting away. And of course he uses dodge dance since he's got enough blue left. Finally, it's this guy, this henchman, who is now unengaged, got nothing to do. And as always, when you take way too long for your turn and decide to end it with a range shot, you always get that miss. Sucker. Finally, alright. On to round 3. There's finally the mage who's been hiding the entire time. After the mage struts his stuff at the top of the catwalk, trying to, I guess, show his fancy cape off to everybody. Takes a little while to look around. And then proceeds to shoot lightning bolts. He does, however, suffer the negative effect for casting a spell successfully. And I have no idea what that does, but one day we'll find out. Anyway, we're on to the vermin. As you can see now, I'm down to 2. This is the one guy on the right. He's got his dual weapons, so he can do big damage. So what he wants to do is get somebody who doesn't have a stance up, which is, of course, this guy who ran for it. So we'll get enough movement by charging. And we're rewarded with a nice 35-point hit for a little puny guy. Not too bad, Mr. Verminkin. The other Verminkin has been doing very well up until this point, shooting into combats. He's mainly been shooting the one warrior, but here he decides to switch fire and actually finish off somebody, and of course he misses. He should have stuck with the other guy. Now, when I finally decide to focus my fire properly, I get rewarded with a big miss. So, disheartened from that, he decides it's time to get mixed in. He does not want to hang out up here with that ogre running around, but he really doesn't have movement to get into combat. So he's kind of stuck hanging out here. In the meanwhile, the black Skaven continues his abuse of this guy over here, and finally finishes that guy off. And then he follows up now by going after this guy. So he's been doing the consistent damage. Though he's going to slow down a little bit here since this dude is wearing heavy armor. Meanwhile, back on the right, my leader runs up, and before he forgets, puts Guidance Mastery on the big rat ogre. Which means he can fight. If he didn't have to do that, he would be engaged. But I don't want to risk stupidity. That's a real weakness of the Skaven. But you gotta live with it. Anyway, this guy continues his good job of support fire, puts another shot in. Back to the enemy, we finally draw out his leader. He's been hiding this entire time, and this is my opportunity. I can draw back from the mistake I've made with this ambush. If I can kill that hero and that leader, that's a huge amount of morale lost. So I get a little breather here. Can we take out his leader before the ogre does enough of a rampage on the other flank? That's going to determine the fight. Alright, the rat ogre. Time to get it on. He's blocked off though, and he's got to kill this guy to get past. This guy on 4 entire health. Of course, dodges the first attack. Not so lucky the second time, and yep, 2 big attacks spent to do 4 damage. Realizing I've got that guy killed, I decide to press. Don't want these guys getting away to gang up on the right. I'm sorry, on the left flank. The left flank is collapsing on me. So this guy blitzes forward, and fortunately this guy manages to ambush back. He does a little bit of damage to the rat ogre, but then I get to make my counterattack. However, thanks to that critical hit he's taken, he's got 20% debuff to his hit. And that's enough there to miss. So the rat ogre did a whole whopping 4 damage. Now, compared to the rat ogre, we've got the enemy ogre. The enemy ogre goes after this verminkin. Verminkin, who's been sitting up top shooting down into fights the entire time. Yeah, I guess you can see what's coming here. And so we'll speed things up as the ogre finally decides to go back to the top. And now he decides to trap the black Skaven, like a filthy cornered rat he is. So much for this flank. Fortunately, the guy manages to parry and clings to life for another turn. Whew, that would have been another 100 damage otherwise. Meanwhile, the Storm Vermin on this flank continues the fight he's got going on with this marksman. This time the marksman actually pulls off the parry. Boxed in, 2-1, looking grim. Time to use parry ourselves. Meanwhile, the other Skaven, Storm Vermin Skaven I should say, goes into trap. Now we have his hero trapped. And he's taking a little bit more damage too to boot. So to round out the turn, we've got, looks like the enemy coming up with 4 consecutive moves. Oh, this lowly henchman. He already got me to miss once. Crits me again. It's another 20% minus to hit. And even worse, I'm stunned. Stunned. The Rat Ogre continues to do nothing. The Storm Vermin, though, clings to life and manages to parry. But he parried that little weak hit from the marksman. Now that his stance is popped. Yeah, another 40-something damage from the youngling. That youngling with that axe is laying down the hurt. Alright, the last guy on this side is the warrior henchman. Quick little weapon swap. Him and the ogre have this guy trapped, so let's finish off the job. 17 points closer to death. Alright, enemy mage goes, and for some reason we cannot see him attacking here, but he's shooting lightning bolts, and some rat somewhere just ate a lightning bolt. The last of the Verminkin. The Verminkin gives a nice big hit to the enemy leader, 40 points, even through his heavy armor, and then goes into dodge stance. Moving back to the other flank. This guy is pretty much trapped. He's almost done for, so might as well do as much damage as possible, but he fails to get another hit off and finish off this guy. But the second hit's more successful, another 13 damage done. Moving into parry stance, hopefully for a repeat. Back to the other flank. This guy's going to go move in and continue to pound on the enemy leader. We have him, so the goal here is to finish him off as quickly as possible and get that valuable morale down. Tiny little hit, barely able to get through the armor, so as you can see, one-handed weapons sometimes really struggle to do much damage against a heavy armor and helmet combination. The last guy, he doesn't really have any room to go into melee, and he already has his pistols drawn, so I move around here a little bit and try to find a nice good spot to snipe. Can't really get the high ground bonus, so go for a base 50% chance. It's still good enough to hit him. Quick little reload, and on to the next guy, which is actually this leader we've been ganging up on now. So he's surrounded, and let's see what he does with his last few moves. Goes to make himself a little bit braver, which is probably a waste since I believe leaders are not affected by on-your-own tests. So kind of a waste, but not really much else for him to do. Instead, we see a problem with the camera angle, and he gets a nice hit off on the lowest armored guy, which is probably the smartest move to do as much damage as possible. Picking on my lowly Verminkin with 2 decent hits. After another pause, still pausing, he goes into parry stance. Back to my Rat Ogre, who lifts himself up. He has lost 2 blue and 2 red due to being stunned, and if you look at his hit chance now, with 3 of those crit debuffs stacked on him, he has a real hard chance of hitting. I'm sorry, 2 of those stacked debuffs. Still, gets a swing off, and as you might expect, he misses. And I make a mistake there. I accidentally use his superior attack, which takes 3 red. I should have done the normal attack move, which takes only 2 red, and thus have gotten 2 attacks off. So, little mistake as I'm getting flustered here towards the end of the game. Now we get to see how a big guy is supposed to do it, as the enemy ogre continues his rampage. First, my black Skaven does his thing and gets his parry off. But we still got another big hit incoming. And it's enough to take him out of action. Back to my turn, we continue the pounding on the enemy leader. We burn his parry with a weak attack, which is what you're supposed to do. Unfortunately, that's all the action point my Storm Vermin can get, so he disengages from combat and continues to move on to help out the Rat Ogre, who's having a lot of trouble right now. Last dude on the left flank, surrounded on all sides, and looks like he's not even going to get a chance to finish off this archer. But we're going to try. And we almost do with another 39 hit. A little bit of better focused firing on this flank, we could have gotten an extra kill. But it's not to be. Finally, the enemy gets to round out the turn with four consecutive moves due to how the initiative stacks up. I get my parry off, but it's on the weaker attack, and as you'll see, thanks to properly stacking his initiative, his bigger attack is going to be following that in just a moment. But first we go to the Rat Ogre. This Rat Ogre who has not been doing a whole lot. At least he gets his dodge off finally. You know, if you can't beat a lowly henchman, what good is he? Meanwhile, the enemy Youngblood, or Youngling, or whatever it's called, again with the big axe. And since he had no more stance, yeah, you see it. Final kill on that flank, they're all dead. Losing this game badly, but let's try and get it back here. Since this is the enemy leader, who's worth a ton of points. And we take him out. The lowly Verminkin, with his dual-wield attack, finally gets a big whomping hit and finishes off the enemy leader. So we're still in it, clinging by our little rat teeth. This guy moves up. He could get in behind, but since he's got no more action points left for this turn, he's going to go and try and block off the enemy ogre, who is certainly coming right back. Better to lose him than my leader, you know? Speaking of leader, he moves in to complete the trap on this last guy on this flank. And his spear gets parried, but he's got another attack coming. And does a little bit of damage against this heavily armored enemy. Mr. Pistols in the back is going to come running up here. And is going to get a little shot off. Since we can't get the high ground and we got a little bit of cover to worry about, yeah, it's only a 50% chance, but it pays off again and he gets another big hit. This guy's been pretty good so far with those pistols. But then again, that's what a Night Runner's for. Back to Mr. Fail. He's only got a pathetic 48% chance to hit. And you notice that he still counts as being stunned. He's down to 4 red and 4 blue. That should not be the case. There's a little bug there where it lasts more than one turn. But even with this crappy to hit, he still manages to get a blow off and does 40 damage. But second chance is no good. So he's going to end his turn with dodge stance. At least the dodge stance isn't too badly affected by being injured. Back over to my enemy. And yep, here's the murderer of the game. This guy has been wiping the floor with everything he encounters. Brave little Verminkin tries to stand up to him, but I think we all know how this is going to go. Especially since he doesn't have a dodge stance up. Enemy savors the incoming kill here. And wow, gets rewarded with a crit at the very end of the game. Dope. And yep, that's it. Warband routes, and my opponent wins. So I hope you all enjoyed watching this game. Again, this is Stymie Jackson playing the Mordheim beta. And I guess we will see you in the city. Good luck, boys, and take it easy.
Oh!